Hi guys, Tugo here with a new video, and this video will be a class tuning for this Wednesday or Tuesday depending on your region. We have PvP tuning. I want to discuss real quickly. I don't want to make it too long of a video, but I always tell that, but I don't know. Let's see how long the video will be. Again, subscribe to the channel if you want PvP content, retail PvP, mostly guides, tips, tier lists, soul shuffle matches, anything really PvP. Please do subscribe and also like the video if you like the video. It helps me with the algorithm and supports my channel a bit more than you would know. Anyways, let's try to assess the situation. We already got a hotfix for Discipline Priest, which is a bug causing expiation to no longer trigger atonement. So that will be fixed. But also, they got a nerf on expiation that it will not get any damage modifiers, but also will not double dip on those and will not crit anymore. So it's already a huge nerf for Discipline Priest. They already switched their builds up to a smite build or to more of a defensive build, pretty much. There is not a lot of people actually playing with expiation anymore, especially with those changes in the PvP section. So now Brewmaster gets a buff, probably because they overdid the nerf previous week. Discipline Priest, Sins of the Many effect is now reduced by 50% in PvP combat. Sins of the Many is the buff that you get, or at least the debuff. So you have a buff on yourself at all times, and the more atonements you're going to give to your team, the less damage you will deal with Sin of the Many. So Sin of the Many is a flat damage percentage that you get for your spells, and it will be reduced every time you are going to apply an atonement on yourself, on your allies, even on pets. But this is going to be nerfed by 50%. Basically, you will do a lot less damage. Will it be super noticeable? I guess it will be noticeable, but not to an extent where you will not deal any damage. I think this increase is still one of the most damage dealing healing specs out there with Fist Weaver, and I guess Holy Paladin and Restoration Shaman with also Preservation Evoker, but those three are more harder, I would say, to deal great damage, while Fist Weaving and Discipline Priest do a lot of damage because that's their way on how they heal. And that will also not change because atonement healing is increased by 40% in PvP combat, and it was 20%. So basically you will still try to deal damage to get some atonement healing. It is very efficient because basically you're going to make them heal the damage that you're producing, but also you will heal your allies by doing that damage. So it's still going to be very interesting. I think this priest with that nerf and buff, I would say it's more of a nerf than a buff, but the change, I would say, will not change their place in the meta. I think it will still be the most played healer in the game because it is first and foremost very fun, but also it has double pain suppression, which is super strong in PvP. They might still be bad in PvE. That doesn't really change anything. I think in PvP it's still going to be too strong. Not too strong. I think the healer, like a disc priest, is actually the barema that people should strive for as a healer. I think having multiple ways to make your team survive outside of dampening or inside of dampening even is a great way to balance healers. I think if a healer cannot perform because of dampening, it means that it's only throughput. And what you want is also a bit more utility, a bit more defensives, like for example, pain suppression, dome, rupture with shields, although it's also a bit affected by dampening, but still they have tools to actually make you survive. Void shift, all those things are very interesting for Disc Priest, and I think a lot of classes should kind of follow that design, not really the atonement healing thing, but at least the design where you have tools to survive inside of dampening. And dampening is always cool to make games shorter, but you don't want to have healers not being able to heal. You basically don't play your class, your healing class, after 3 minutes of dampening in Soul Shuffle, which is pretty nuts. Rogue gets finally a nerf, although I don't think it is enough, because basically it's a big nerf, but you should understand it's only a 14% increased nerf on numbing poison and a 12% increased nerf on the shiv effect of numbing poison. It's still annoying. I really hate that effect. I think in Wrath of the Lich King it's also a problem, to be honest. In any expansion, you should just remove all those numbing poison effects. Numbing poison, Curse of Tongues, Spell Warden, all those things should just get removed because it's so annoying to play a caster. And it's also because of that reason that casters get a lot of instant casts because they cannot cast correctly, and even more whenever they get that. So if you do remove all those things, you can then have more of a focus on casters actually being able to cast and actually have the possibility to cast, and the counterplay should be stuns, fears, interrupts, silence, and not putting a numbing poison, have a big casting bar, and then you have all the time in the world to you to actually interrupt a cast. I think it's like bad design, and it's not really a counter because, again, poisons, they get reapplied directly. It's not like you can dispel it and you're good for 8 seconds. It's basically you dispel it, the next second, the next global numbing poison is again on the target. So very, very annoying to deal with. I think in Classic you have like Abolish Poison from Druids, where basically you apply the dispel and it will refresh every 2 seconds for 6 seconds or 8 seconds, I don't remember. That was actually good design. It was a counter towards those poisons, and you can reapply it, but it will not stay more than 2 seconds for that duration of that dispel, and you can also spam it. So I think they should change something around that. I know that if you do the same design in Dragonflight, Assassination Rogues are getting destroyed, but you have to have a compromise. I think removing numbing poison would be a good compromise. But anyways, that's my take on these nerfs. I think it's not enough. Improved Garrote will finally have a 30% base value in PvP combat instead of 50%. So it should be a good nerf. It's technically a 20% nerf. Now, I don't know if it's going to be very noticeable, but we'll see. I think overall, Deathmark also now duplicating it 50% instead of 70%. The thing is, I don't feel like I'm dying because of Deathmark. I think whenever you hear Deathmark or whenever you see Deathmark, you use your defensives. If it's not Dark Iron Dwarf racial or like Dwarf racial or even just anything, like you can also just use any like immunities like a bubble or ice block or anything really. You can use anything to actually remove all those things, and I think it's more of a bait thing. You put Deathmark, you bait a lot of CDs, and then you can still kill afterward. So I don't think it will change the place in the meta for Assassination Rogue. So it's a nerf, still very welcome. I think it's the right direction, but the good direction, the best direction would be remove numbing poison, and then casters would be a very good matchup, like a bad matchup for rogues, at least for Assassination Rogues, and you can actually do something versus them. Because right now, Assassination Rogue with a Shadow Priest is the bane of every like caster spell, like caster comp. It's not fun. It's really not fun. But that's my take on those changes. Now I want to talk a bit, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, hopefully 2 minutes, 3 minutes, on how they could deal. Like I think they're dropping the ball. Like really, they're dropping the ball. I feel like they're making changes like it's on maintenance mode. Like this. Okay, it's a hotfix, but you should have more changes, man. Take more risks. Make the meta different. Like, I could take anything, like League of Legends patch notes. Because I think I'm crazy by saying that. Is it that hard to do every 2 weeks a big patch note? Look at this. Look at this. And yes, they have many more champions and classes than like classes on World of Warcraft, but all those changes every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks. And sometimes you even have hotfixes. Look at this. Every 2 weeks. And that keeps the game fresh. And yes, it is frustrating whenever your main is getting nerfed and your S tier class goes to a C tier class. It is what it is, but it keeps the game fresh. And what they are doing is actually dropping the ball, because if they think this is enough to have the PvP state changed or altered or even just made better, they are wrong. This nerf on this priest is maybe deserved, but I would rather them buffing other healers instead of nerfing this priest. And I know it's a unpopular unpopular opinion, but I think Disc Priest doing damage is actually good for the game. It makes gameplay a lot faster, and the only issue what I can see is you have Resto Druids, problems with Purge. Why aren't they nerfing Purge? That's the one thing that they need to nerf, not the damage. I don't care if they do a lot of damage. They always had a lot of damage since Legion, since I don't even remember which expansion they actually had a lot of damage. I think even in Mist of Pandaria they had a lot of damage. If I'm mistaken, please correct me in comments. But Disc Priest, their whole jab is basically doing damage and healing, and that only healing, I think it's from Legion, if I'm not mistaken. But like something like this, why aren't they actually nerfing the things that are very problematic for a lot of specs? Resto Druids versus Disc Priest is horrendous and adds another purge class with it, like let's say Elemental Shaman or Enhancement Shaman or a Shadow Priest with the Disc Priest. It becomes unwinnable for the Resto Druid because they don't have any damage. They do have CC, but if they do for a CC, they are very close to the target, so they can always get switched on. So it's very, very dangerous. You don't have the damage reduction possibilities as a priest into dampening, so a Disc Priest will be always better like managing their HP pools from their allies in dampening than let's say a Resto Druid. But also they get purged, they get all their healing purged, which means that they have to spend other globals to reapply those HOTS, which basically again negates the possibility to do damage. If you nerf Purge, I don't care, maybe the CD, maybe put a bigger mana spendage on those purges, or a chance on resist, I don't care, something, man, something. This is insane, and I'm talking about Resto Druid, but Preservation Evoker also have a lot of difficulties versus Disc Priest, and everyone was like up and high for this Preservation Evokers in beginning of Season 1, even myself, but right now I would really put Preservation Evoker a lot lower than Disc Priest, because they get hard countered. Resto Shaman, very cool, they have throughput, but basically they are actually as good as their ally's brain. If the ally don't stand into the earth, how it's called, the totem, come on, man. Anyways, the totem you place and you have to stay inside to redirect damage. That totem, I don't even, like, I blanked on it, but whatever, it doesn't matter. You know about which totem we are talking about. That totem, people need to stand in it, but it's not very visual, it's not very easy to maneuver, and also the area is big, but also not that big. In an arena match, you do move a lot, you have a lot of people that can actually push you out. Mages can push pretty much all the time. Elemental Shaman, Enhancement Shaman, Restoration Shaman can also push people off that zone. So again, it's not easy for Restoration Shaman to win games. They have to be careful with their actual CDs. They need to be careful about their totems, because if they put the totems next to a melee, if the melee is actually very like smart, you don't really need to be very smart, but basically you can just totem stomp the healing tide, and throughput will be lower. Spirit Link, very interesting, but if your allies are kiting you, you can't really put a Spirit Link into yourself only. You have to go near the ally and put a Spirit Link, which is, again, a very strong ability, very strong utility. But priests don't have that problem. They have Dome, okay, that's a very big problem, but at least it is very visualized. You cannot miss a Dome on the map. If they are running outside of the Dome, that's their fault. But who can blame a melee that cannot see the zone? It's very difficult. You need to have weak auras, or you need to have like Restoration Shaman putting the marker on their totem whenever they're placing it. I mean, it's very, very hard for them. And I think it's better to buff other classes, their damage or their utility or their healing throughput or anything else like a damage reduction ability, than nerfing this priest. That's my opinion. And if they want to nerf Disc Priest or any Purge class, just nerf Purge. I think the idea of Greater Purge being a 10-second Purge is actually very interesting. You have a better Purge, but it will have a 10-second CT. And I think it should be the actual meta, I would say. They have to change the gameplay around Purge to not be obnoxious for a few classes. And Restoration Druid is, I think, very good, but it gets hard countered most of the time. I don't have damage anyways to actually swing games. While, for example, Disc Priest, they can have the damage to kill people. They have PS, they have Dome, they have Rapture, they have Void Shift. They have a lot of things to actually make people stay alive for a few seconds at least. While Restoration Druid, if they get purged and they get switched on, you're pretty much dead. You don't have anything. You have Tranquility, which is cool, but it's not enough, right? But anyways, that's more or less my take about the patch note. I think they're dropping the ball pretty much. They could do a lot more, man. They could do a lot more. And I know they could even hit Arms Warrior. I don't care. I'm an Arms Warrior player, also a Warlock player. They could hit them. I just want the meta to be shaped or shifted every month, every 2 months, something like that, man. Every 2 weeks you have a big patch, like League of Legends, where they shake up the meta, and then you have like every month or two you have a big meta shift. But right now, Assassination Rogue will stay S+, because they still have the tools to be S+. And that's the problem. But anyways, let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Again, hopefully the meta will change very soon with 10.7. We still don't have a Tate, which is pretty stupid, but whatever. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. We have also a second channel for classic content, so if you want to watch classic content, which is hardcore, Wrath of the Lich King, PvP, PvE, whatever, discussion videos, tier lists, everything, please do subscribe to the second channel in the description below. And yeah, we will see each other very soon in the next video, probably today, with a Arms Warrior solo shuffle. And yeah, thank you, bye.